A day after the reboot of the Union Cabinet, a number of newly appointed ministers have taken charge of their assignments, including Mansukh Mandaviya, the new Health Minister, Ashwini Vaishnaw, the new Railways and IT Minister, and Anurag Thakur, the new Information and Broadcasting Minister. He was elevated from his previous position in the Council of Ministers. Kiren Rijiju as well saw a big promotion. He is now the new Law Minister. Now, one of the new ministers who's, of course, elicited a lot of interest and surprise and reactions have been coming in is Mansukh Mandaviya, the leader from Gujarat. He will now, who also heads the Chemicals and Fertilizer Ministry and takes charge of the Ministry of Health at a very critical time for the country and for the government's fight against COVID. India has seen off a devastating second wave of COVID infections and is scrambling to scale up vaccinations ahead of a potential third wave. So Mansukh Mandaviya there replacing Dr. Harshvardhan in the Health Ministry. Well, let's go across to Sukirti for more. And Sukirti, his position will be, and what he does in coming days will be something which will be keenly watched, given we're at this very precarious position in the country in terms of our fight against COVID.
Well, yes, absolutely, Gaji. And while the Union Health Minister is yet to give us a comment post taking charge, but the MOS for Health, Dr. Bharti Praveen Pawar, has spoken to ANI media agency ANI a few minutes ago, and where she has said that for the last 2 years, India has been caught up in the pandemic, and there is a lot of work that is on their hands, and they will be taking it with full focus. And especially controlling COVID in rural areas is going to be one of their priorities. So that is as far as the priorities that have been outlined by the MOS Health so far, but we are yet to get a word from Mr. Mandaviya. But he has definitely visited all three vaccine production facilities of Serum, Zydus Cadila in Ahmedabad, as well as a Covaxin production facility in Ahmedabad, which has an MOU with Bharat Biotech. So he surely has made an assessment of how much production that India is capable of for vaccines this year, and whether we will have enough for vaccinating the entire adult population as the government has promised. So a lot of challenges ahead of him, increasing the vaccination production in India as well as controlling the number of COVID cases, and to prepare ourselves for handling the third wave of COVID.
That's right. So a very, very important post at a very crucial time taken over by Mansukh Mandaviya, who replaces Dr. Harshvardhan as the new Health Minister. Now, Kiren Rijiju, the new Law and Justice Minister, also took charge of his office this morning. He's one of the handful of junior ministers who's been promoted to a cabinet rank after Wednesday's reshuffle, and he assumed charge in the presence of Buddhist monks. He said he is conscious of the responsibility entrusted to him and that he's determined to rise to the challenges ahead.
What is going to be the priority and the vision of the government?
अभी विजन का बात करने का समय ही नहीं है, अभी काम करने का समय है। मेरा और बघेल जी का ड्यूटी है मंत्रालय में काम करना।
सर, कितना आज आपने एज ए लॉ मिनिस्टर भार संभाला है और सभी लोग जो आपके बैचमेट्स हैं वो फोटो भी शेयर कर रहे हैं, एक मेमोरेबल मूवमेंट है।
बिल्कुल मेमोरेबल मूवमेंट है, और मिलेंगे ना, सबको मिलेंगे, सबको मिलेंगे।
किन तैयारियों के साथ आए हैं, क्योंकि स्पोर्ट्स मिनिस्ट्री में आपने जो काम किया ओलंपिक में बिल्कुल है, वहाँ पर भी मुलाकात की सबसे आपने?
अभी सबको मिल के आया है और विदाई किया हमको वहाँ अच्छा किया, मिल के आया। अच्छा, एक टीम अच्छा रहा वहाँ पे, स्पोर्ट्स मिनिस्ट्री में बहुत अच्छा रहा।
किरण सर, ओलंपिक कोऑपरेटिंग विद अनुराग।
ऑब्वियसली मैंने जैसे कहा ना, ये एक कलेक्टिव रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी होता है। प्रधानमंत्री जी ने पूरा देश को आह्वान किया है कि टोक्यो ओलंपिक के समय पूरा देश चीयर फॉर इंडिया करना है। चाहे आप सरकार में हो, चाहे विपक्ष में हो, चाहे अधिकारी हो, चाहे गांव में हो, चाहे आप विदेश में भी हो, हर भारतीय को चेयर फॉर इंडिया करना है, हमारे ओलंपिक टीम्स को चेयर करना है। ये हमारे प्रधानमंत्री जी का आह्वान किया हुआ शब्द है, और हम लोग सब चेयर करेंगे अपने टीम को।
You said it's a huge challenge for you to take reins of the Law and Justice Ministry. So will you be taking help from your predecessor as well, as far as the?
It's always a teamwork. See, we both are here as a minister. but it's always a collective responsibility, teamwork. अकेला कुछ नहीं होता है.
Kiren Rijiju, the new Law and Justice Minister, as far as the vision is concerned, the minister has clearly said that it is not time to talk about vision right now, but to start working. Mr. Kiren Rijiju has said that he will be briefed by his senior ministers here as far as the pending matters are concerned and certain controversies that we have seen in the recent times. But how exactly the face of the ministry will change, that is a big question. With camera person Sushil Rathi, I'm Akshay Dongre for NDTV.
Right, so Kiren Rijiju there taking charge, and this morning Anurag Thakur, who was promoted in the reshuffle, also took over as the Information and Broadcasting and Sports Minister, while Ashwini Vaishnaw, an MBA from Wharton, took over as the Railways and IT Minister. And there you can see a former Assam Chief Minister and now a Minister of Ports, Shipping, Waterways and Ayush, Sarbanand Sonowal, there at the BJP headquarters. He will also be taking charge. And in the revamped Team Modi, the new Council of Ministers, Sarbanand Sonowal, who made way for Himanta Biswa Sarma to take over as Chief Minister after the BJP won the elections in Assam, has now been accommodated at the centre and was given a position in the Council of Ministers, and he is now the Minister of Ports, Shipping, Waterways and Ayush. And let's just take a look at what Anurag Thakur said as he took charge.
जितने बड़े नाम आप गिना रहे हैं, उतनी बड़ी जिम्मेदारी का एहसास भी होता है. इसलिए मैंने कहा जो विश्वास व्यक्त माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी ने किया है, उनके विश्वास पर खरा उतरने का प्रयास करूंगा और इस जिम्मेदारी को ठीक से निभाने का हर संभव प्रयास करूंगा. उसमें आप सबका सहयोग भी चाहिए होगा. आगे बहुत सारे अवसर आएंगे विस्तार में बात करने के. आज आप सब शुभकामनाएं देने हैं. आप सबका बहुत-बहुत धन्यवाद.
And there you can see Jyotiraditya Scindia. Let's listen in.
मुझे दी है पूरी लगन से, पूरी निष्ठा से और पूरी क्षमता से इस जिम्मेदारी को निभाने की मैं कोशिश करूंगा और मुझे आशा है कि जो अपेक्षाएं हैं उन अपेक्षाओं पर मैं खड़े उतरूं. मेहनत, मशक्कत और उसी भाव के साथ कार्य करूंगा जिस तरीके से मैंने पिछले 15-20 साल जनसेवा में कार्य किया है.
एयर इंडिया के डिसइन्वेस्टमेंट सबसे बड़ा
अभी उस पर थैंक यू.
So Jyotiraditya Scindia, as he takes over as the new Civil Aviation Minister from Hardeep Puri, who earlier used to head this ministry. Mr. Scindia joined the government. He was sworn in yesterday evening in the reboot of the cabinet, in which 36 new ministers, including those who joined the government, and 7 are getting promoted. And Jyotiraditya Scindia, in fact, taking over a ministry that was once held by his father, who was a Congress leader, Madhav Rao Scindia. Jyotiraditya Scindia, remember, was a former Congress leader who has now joined the BJP and also helped the BJP form government in Madhya Pradesh, where there was a Congress government. We saw over 20 MLAs then defecting to the BJP and helping the BJP form government in Madhya Pradesh. So now, as was expected, Jyotiraditya Scindia being rewarded for that, and he was sworn in into the Council of Ministers yesterday, and today takes over as the Civil Aviation Minister. And let's now take a look at the new Railway Minister. It's a very, very important ministry, and it's been given to Ashwini Vaishnaw, an MBA from Wharton. Let's listen into what he said.
I thank Honorable Prime Minister for giving me this very big responsibility. Railways is a subject which is very close to Honorable Prime Minister's heart. His vision is huge, and I will work hard to implement his vision. Railways is already, last 7 years, lots of good work has been done, and it will be my responsibility to take it forward.
And Kishan Reddy has also taken charge in his new role as a tourism minister. Earlier he was MOS in the Home Ministry, but now given a cabinet position there as tourism minister. and Ramchandra Prasad has also taken over as the Steel Minister. Well, to talk more about this new Team Modi, as it were, the new faces and the elevations that took place yesterday evening, we're joined by Smita Gupta, senior journalist. And Smita, I was speaking to you yesterday morning, and since then there were so many surprises. At that time, we speculated about, whether the health minister would be changed. And after that, of course, it's been a complete reshuffle, overhaul is what many are describing it as. Your comments on this new Team Modi?
Well, I think I'm more stunned by the exits. Prakash Javadekar, Ravi Shankar Prasad, who were old sort of BJP hands. And of course, the health minister. As far as the new team is concerned, I think the most striking thing about the new cabinet is that 47 of the 77 belong to the OBC, scheduled castes and scheduled tribes, which I think is a first for any government, because that's a huge number. As far as the portfolios are concerned, well, there's always a gap between the kind of speculation that journalists like me make on television programs and what political parties think. So there are people who think that Jyotiraditya Scindia has been sort of shortchanged by being given civil aviation. And maybe he should have been given a weightier portfolio. But the fact is that the way the BJP functions is quite different. Himanta Biswa Sharma, who left the Congress party, he had to wait to deliver the entire Northeast.
All right, Smith, I'm sorry to interrupt you there, and Sharad Pradhan also with us. We'll just listen into what the new health minister has to say. All right, we just missed his soundbite there, but that is the new health minister, and a lot of interest around him, Mansukh Mandaviya. And right, so Smita, coming back to you, in fact, that was one of the big surprises. Yes, of course, in the early evening yesterday, we learned that Dr. Harshvardhan had stepped down, so there were reactions to that. But what do you think about the choice of Mansukh Mandaviya in a very crucial ministry at this time?
Well, at this moment, I think we have to wait to see. He'll have to prove himself. But the fact is that he's from Gujarat, and elections are due in Gujarat next year. So I think there is a connection between the two. In fact, I think the people who have got weightier or more significant portfolios are those who are known personally to Mr. Modi. For instance, you were just showing us Mr. Vaishnaw, who's got the railways and communication. I mean, one of the most significant kind of portfolios. I think it is the personal trust that Mr. Modi has, or his personal knowledge of a particular person, that has helped. I think it's also interesting to see that somebody young like Kiren Rijiju, who is, who had a stint as Minister of State for Home before he was with Youth and Sport, has been given Law and Justice. So I think that is a really big jump up. Anurag Thakur, that is very interesting. Information and broadcasting is very important for this government, because I think one of the reasons why Mr. Javadekar had to be dropped was that the Prime Minister felt that the image of this government had taken a beating, and that the IMD ministry had not really done enough. I mean, we've taken a beating, especially abroad. So I think Anurag Thakur will have a really tough job on his hands. Meenakshi Lekhi as MOS for External Affairs, I think, is a good choice. I mean, she's somebody who should have been made a minister many years ago. If I can interrupt you
again, she's just speaking, so let's just listen to what she has to say.
कहना चाहती हूँ कि मेरी ओथ की एक शब्द, निष्ठा प्रतिज्ञा जो है, वो एक शब्द को हम सच्चा करके दिखाएंगे। इसका मैं आपको पूरा।
आपकी प्राथमिकता क्या होगी?
प्राथमिकता मेरा देश है, और उसके अलावा कोई प्राथमिकता नहीं है। और जो कि किसी की भी प्राथमिकता जिम्मेवारी के लिहाज से अगर देखा जाए, और जो जिम्मेवारी है वो देश का ही बखान करने की जिम्मेवारी है, वो प्राथमिकता वही रहेगी। और मुझे लगता है आप सबकी प्राथमिकता हमारा देश ही है।
All right, Meenakshi Lekhi there speaking after taking charge, and Smita Gupta, in fact, 7 women ministers taking charge, and in all, I think the Council of Ministers has around 11.
Absolutely, and you see, Anupriya Patel has got commerce and industry, I think, which are pretty weighty sort of minister portfolios to hold. But she, of course, has experience in this government, though she had been dropped in between. So there's Shobha Karandre, who has had vast experience in Karnataka. Some of the others are new names, so we will have to see how they do. Meenakshi Lekhi, of course, I think is somebody who probably deserved to have been a minister a long while ago. But I suppose it's good that she's been made a minister in this government.
All right, well, let's get Sharad Pradhan in, and your comments on this new Team Modi.
Well, it's too early to make any comment on the freshers, but let me tell you, there's so much talk about ministers being very highly, the cabinet is very highly educated and all.
Yes.
But yes. I have 2 tweets from this new health minister Mandaviya, and you will be shocked to hear that his tweet says Happy Independence Day, or for Independence Day, and for Mahatma Gandhi, he's saying Mahatma Gandhi is nation of the father. So that is the kind of education they seem to have.
Well, maybe he's not very proficient in English. Maybe we shouldn't hold that against him, isn't it?
No, I'm just pointing out, because there's so much loud talk about the cabinet being very highly educated, as if there were no educated people in earlier cabinets. So, but you know, the problem with this dispensation is they like to make too much noise about very little. So it is not so much of a, like for instance, they talk about performance-based decisions. Now, if this was performance-based, then would somebody have been held responsible for the state of economy that we are in, for the mess that has been created of the Indian economy? No. Neither the finance minister nor the minister of state. The minister of state gets elevated as a cabinet minister. Anurag Thakur I am referring to. So likewise, when it comes to COVID mismanagement, it's very convenient to pass the buck to Harshvardhan, who is a decent chap.
Right, that's going to be interesting to see, because with this new team, are we going to see a new way of working, or is it going to remain the way it's been in these last few years, where, you know, it's the PMO which is the power center, and the ministers are there, but the main directions come from the PMO, isn't it? Right. I think we lost the line there. Yes, Smita, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be any difference in the functioning of this government. I think the powers will be centralized with the Prime Minister's office. So in that sense, what we saw yesterday was actually a huge image building exercise.
Right.
And it is for the Prime Minister to improve his performance. Because few weeks ago, as Sharath was just pointing out, you know, you had the Prime Minister saying that the government had dealt fantastically with this pandemic, that India had outperformed the rest of the world. Then why has Mr. Poor Harshvardhan been dropped? You know, there's a gap between what he said some time back. It's just that he's Teflon coated, so nobody remembers what he said just a few weeks ago.
That's right. Yes, Sharad Pradhan, if you could, comment on that. So an image building exercise, coordinate course correction, a new team, a lot of tokenism, a lot of different caste groups being accommodated, a lot of women leaders coming in to this Council of Ministers.
Yeah, a lot of tokenism and a lot image building, fine. And it's also aimed at it's keeping the elections in mind, the states which are going to poll in the next few months. So it's very heavily tilted in that, and that's the reason you find, for instance, from Uttar Pradesh, you find a whole lot of new incumbents belonging to certain OBC castes. Now, which is what they are targeting, because they are of the view, and it is being said also, it's common knowledge that Akhilesh Yadav, who's going to be seems to be the main opposition party, is also trying to target the lower the OBCs. So to dent that, I think they have inducted a couple of OBC ministers, you know, out of the 7 ministers that have gone from UP, I think 4 are belong to the, or 5 belong to the OBCs. One, of course, is an ally, Anupriya Patel. The others are all 6 are from the BJP. One of them is a Dalit. But the kind of messaging that they are trying to send, that they are really worried about the OBCs and Dalits. That is the message they are trying to show. And because in UP, there have been a lot of differences between one of the deputy chief ministers and the chief minister. Because he happens to belong to that OBC, and he was hoping that he would get the chief minister's slot, Keshav Prasad Maurya. So to placate or to, you know, balance out.
Right.
So a lot of balancing game has been played, particularly in terms of caste, because in places where elections are around the corner. And but how, like for instance, in Uttarakhand, where they sacked from where they sacked this chap, and Pokhriyal.
All right. Well, we're completely out of time now. I'm so sorry to interrupt you there. Sharad Pradhan and Smita Gupta, thank you so much for talking to us about this new team Modi. So a lot of factors in play in the new faces that we're seeing and the elevations that we've seen in the Council of Ministers. As you pointed out, we'll have to wait and see what the performance is like.